Hello everyone and welcome to the 11th episode of Bootstrap 5.3 tutorial series for beginners, form validation. So what is the form validation? Let's say when you enter data, the browser and or the web server will check to see that the data is in the correct format and within the constraints set by the application. And here we have Visual Studio Code that we'll be using throughout our series. So if you need to know more about VSCODE, you can watch my VS series and find the link in the description below. First of all, let's quickly add a form to our document. So for that, let's open our Explorer and let's make a copy of this sample document, and I am going to rename it as bootstrap-form-validation. And let's copy this text from here, validation, and I'm gonna close our Explorer. Let's close a sample as well, and let's select all of the instances of this sample text, and let's change this with the text we have just copied. And let's come here and I am going to turn this to uppercase. Hit save, and now let's open this document in the browser with the help of live server extension. So here we have got form validation. Let me close this empty tab, and now let's resize the browser and the editor so you may have a better view. Alright, now let's quickly add a form to our document. So for that, let me resize it a bit more. Alright, now let's add a form with a row class, and inside that row I am going to have a couple of columns. Say we'll have 3 copies of the columns, and let's add col hyphen say small hyphen 6. So this expression suggests to create 3 columns with a row, and let's see if it works or not. Hit save. That is there, and I'm gonna undo that. Let's also add a content here, say column followed by dollar, and I'm gonna wrap the editor. Let's scroll all the way down and make this work for us. Hit save, and we get these 3 columns. So let's talk about our first column. We are going to add a form control. Say first I am going to undo that just to have this expression for you. Let's comment this one out and make this one work for us. Alright, so now let's go to our first column, and I am going to add here a label followed by form hyphen label, and let's have some content here, column 6, and I am going to have say first name, and then let's have an input followed by form hyphen control, and let's add an attribute require and see what it renders us. Hit save, and we get this form control having a label as well as required. So let's undo that. I'm gonna keep that for you. Right, so let's go to alright, so let's go to the next line, and I am going to make a copy of this expression. Undo that, and let's take this guy to the next row, and let's make a copy, comment this one out, and let's make this one work for us. Hit save. So that's what we have inside our first column, and let's select this block of code and make a copy. So that's going to be our last name. Hit save, and that will also be required. And to our third column, say to our second column, I am going to add here Alright, to this column I am going to add here form hyphen check, and inside that div let's have an input with a class of form hyphen control. Sorry, that's going to be form hyphen check hyphen input, a little bit different from the form control. And we'll also have an attribute, say type would be checkbox, and it will also be required. And let's have label followed by form hyphen check hyphen label, and let's add some content. Agree to terms and conditions, and hit enter to see what we get here. Alright, so we get this little checkbox for us, and let's undo that, and let's keep this expression for you and make this next one work for us. Alright, so this is what we have so far. Let's go to our last column, and I am going to add in here a button followed by button hyphen primary, and let's add some content here, say submit, and see what we get. Button, hit save. So that's the form, very pretty form we have right now. Alright, and I am going to change the styling here, say 15. Let's make this 15. No, 10. Alright, that looks fine. If I submit this form, we'll have this default validation. Please fill out this form. This pop-up window comes up as you try to submit this form. So this is the validation. This is default validation provided by HTML. Now let's see the power of Bootstrap form validation. For that, I am going to, let's copy this guy from here, and let's go to matching pair, and I'm going to add here a heading, Bootstrap form validation. Hit save, and we get the same form here. Now there are a couple of things to keep in mind that to make Bootstrap validation work. First of all, you will need to turn off the default validation, and that you can do with just come here at the form label and add in here no validate attribute. Hit save, and make sure that the validation does not work anymore, so it submits the form. Now you will need to add here a class needs hyphen validation. Alright, so this is the class provided by Bootstrap, and then you will also need to add some JavaScript here. Let me maximize our browser, and let's go to Bootstrap documentation and find here form or validation. Let's click here, and you can also go through this documentation that we have been following along, and here we have example starter JavaScript for disabling form submission. So you just need to come here and copy this whole block of code, and let's go back to our editor and go all the way down before our body tag, and I am going to add that after our bootstrap JavaScript. So let's add script tag here, and let's paste the code that we have just copied. And let me fix the indentation. Alright, hit save, and let's go to our browser. I am going to resize it, and let's keep this undocked. I'm gonna minimize it, and let's see if it starts to work. Now if you hit submit, the bootstrap validation starts to work. So that is not the end of bootstrap validation. You can also add some comments after each of the form control, and for that you will need to add some content here. So say come here, and for the first name, let's select this guy, and now let's add a div after our input tag. Let's select all the input tags that we have. See if we have another input. Alright, so after label, I am going to add a, so let's select this whole element, and let's go to the next line, and let's add in here a div having a class of valid-feedback. And this is the class that you can use to appear a div if your submission is valid. So after that you can also add a content, say looks good, hit enter and hit save. So right now you don't see anything. So now if you hit submit and try to fill in the form, so that text appears, looks good. And if you type something here, the text also appears here. So this text actually comes from this div, valid feedback. And I am going to add some gutters to our form. So form row, let's add after needs validation, say G should be say 3, hit save. Alright, so that adds some margin at the bottom to every form control. Alright, now something pretty similar to default feedback is going to be a tooltip, and let me show you what I mean by that. So let's come here, and I am going to make a copy of our form. Alright, let's go to its matching pair, and I am going to add some heading here, feedback tool tip, hit save, and we have the same form here with feedback tooltip. And what I'm gonna do here is let's change well, I think I did not add the validation to our agree to terms, so let's add one here as well. So first let's go back to our previous, and I am going to add here after a label, I'm going to add here a div with invalid-feedback, invalid-feedback, and let's give it a content that you must agree before submitting. Hit save, and now if you submit, let's go to this form, and that adds, sorry, I did not hit enter. Hit enter, hit save, And now if you try to submit your form, you get this: you must agree before submitting text, right after your checkbox. So we have that, and I am going to copy this from here. Let's go all the way down, and right after agree to terms, check label. That's a label. Yes, I am going to add that div here as well, and make sure that it's still working. And if I type here something so that satisfies the constraints. Alright, now let's go ahead how you can add a tooltip provided by Bootstrap to each of your form control. So you will just need to make one change, and that is, let's come here and go to feedback tooltip. Let's select all the classes having this feedback to your form. Okay, and let's change this to tooltip, and let's do the same for our checkbox as well. Invalid tip. Hit save, and now if I try to submit, and tooltip, feedback tooltip, valid tooltip. Okay, so that should be valid tooltip. Yes, I have added it there. And if I refresh the page and try to submit, it is still not working. That was an issue. Now we see that we have a tooltip coming up if you try to submit, but the position is not correct. So to fix this issue, now resize the browser and the editor as well. You will need to add one more class to each of your column. Feedback tooltip, let's select all these classes. Column is small, and see if we have another column small. Alright, and let's go here and add in here position hyphen relative. Hit save. Now if you try to submit, that tooltip appears here. So that was an issue of not adding this class position relative. And now if I fill this box, that also gives us the tooltip. Now the final thing that you definitely would like to know is going to be customization. So for that, let's go to getbootstrap.com and try to find here validation, or I think we have that already with us. Let's maximize and go all the way to, let's click on validation and go to this CSS and SASS variables sections. So here we not only have CSS variables that you can use to modify the validation styling, but you have variables, mixins, maps, loops, and more customization. So for an idea, let's go to SASS variables and see what we can have from here. So we have various variables here that we can use to change. Say we have color variable for feedback valid color. So let's copy this variable and let me show you what this color is about. If I try to submit, let me refresh our page and submit it back again. So right now this is the color that we have here: success for valid or danger for invalid. So if you notice, the color of our boxes turns to danger if invalids, or if valids it turns to green. So that color you can change with the help of these variables. So let's try to change feedback valid color. Let's copy this variable from here, go to VSCODE, and let's open here main.scss, and let me bring up our browser. Let's resize it. Alright, and let's scroll down all the way down. Fine, and I'm gonna refresh the browser. Okay, so in the main.scss I'm gonna paste the recently copied variable, and let's change this success to say anything blue. Alright, and you can select any of the color if you click on this icon, and you can check any of the color from here. Say if you wanna make this so make sure your watch SASS extension is also working, and let's hit save and see if it works. And now let SASS extension take 100,000 million years to generate the file, and I guess it has generated the file. Right now if you hit submit and try to add something here, the color has turned to the color you have just mentioned here. So let me comment this one out and hit save to restore the default settings. And that was all. And if you have any question, just feel free to comment below, and hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.